Way back in 2000, internet was indeed fairly new in India. It had already become quite a phenomena in the US. I think there was conviction that over time it will definitely become big in India. So I was getting in early into this phase. Also, my initial model was more focused around non-resident Indians coming back to India. So their home market actually was overseas and most of them in the US. So the internet penetration in India being low did definitely make me push back my plans for Indians to travel abroad and Indians to travel within India. But it helped me in the Into India plan. And I think if I move forward a couple of years, by 2003, I think when I saw Indian Railways, IRCTC doing well in India, getting people comfortable to buy online, that definitely helped me validate my decision that India is now getting ready. By 2004, we started building an India offering, and by 2005, we also launched in India. I think prior experience overall helps. So, firstly, I've worked 8 years in my corporate life, professional life after my MBA. Before starting MakeMyTrip. So from 92 to 2000, I did three different jobs. AMF Bowling was entrepreneurial, but I was really working for the company, helping them launch in India. Prior to that, I started my career as a banker with ABN AMRO, and after AMF Bowling, I actually worked with G Capital for a short time. I think all stints are very helpful, but I actually think the stint with AMF Bowling was the most helpful. And the reason is it was the path not trodden at all. So it was something brand new. It was launch of a new concept in India. Similarly, when I launched MakeMyTrip, it was launch of a new concept in India. Building a team from scratch definitely was important. Evangelizing a new concept was very important. And I think most importantly is the fact that if you've actually not done well, so MF Bowling at the end of the day did not do as well as expected. In those 4 years, I'd hoped to set up 2,000 bowling lanes in the country. The fact is only 200 went up for multiple reasons, cost of real estate, availability of large spaces, etc. But I think that was a very good, sobering experience for me, a great learning. And I think this one failure actually egged me on to keep on persisting with MakeMyTrip despite the early challenges. So we went through a really difficult time in 2001, 2002 after 9/11, the dot-com bust, SARS epidemic. It was really a terrible time in India, a very difficult time to keep the business going. But the fact that one had lived through a really tough time, a semi-crisis, I think hardened me and made me kind of tougher and able to go through what was, I think, the most difficult phase for MakeMyTrip. When we launched MakeMyTrip in India, the idea was to be the defining place, the defining portal for people to travel to India, from India, and within India. Like I mentioned a short time back, market in India was ready to browse but not to buy. We called it lots of lookers but very few bookers. So we actually focused by default only on the inbound market. And I think it was a analytical side. I'm definitely very big on analytics and BI. I do take help on all big decisions. And so did my other senior colleagues. And when we saw the numbers and we saw the conversion metrics in the inbound market, US to India particularly, we were convinced that that's the market we need to focus on, and we need to keep the Indian market on the back burner. So for the initial 3 to 4 years, the only focus right up to 2005 was only US India inbound market. I think the importance can't be overemphasized. And actually, particularly for businesses like ours, which are B2C businesses, online businesses, the amount of data you generate every day and actually every hour when you become a large site with a lot of people is phenomenal. And the amount that data can tell you, if you're willing to listen, is also phenomenal. So actually, you can not only make a lot of great decisions, but I think equally importantly, not make a lot of silly decisions if you're willing to listen to that data. Of course, that data has to be, I think, massaged. You have to get meaning out of that data. And that's where analytics comes in. So it's a ton of raw data. What you're going to do with it when you get 10 million visits to your site, regularly, and you need to know what people are doing, what they are liking, what makes them buy, what makes them go away. This could be beyond price. This could be differentiated offerings. It could be just different aspects and facets of your site that people like. And with mobile, it's become even more interesting. And then you can cross tab and you can look at behavior of people on mobile and behavior of people on website. And now you have app as well, which is very popular in India, and I think is really a sign of things to come. So it's really up to you. So my philosophy is look at all the data, tell people what you want to see, and spend a lot of time on that. But then finally, that big decision is going to be very often a leap of faith. And that's where your right side of the brain comes in, and that's going to be the gut. So I think you've got to get base data, you've got to get, I think, almost like different models in your mind ready, and then the one you go for is where the real conviction and belief is. MakeMyTrip is one of the very few companies which is listed, actually, internet companies which is listed, and for Indian internet companies, the only one which is probably listed in the US. It puts on you a lot of responsibility, but it's also very exciting. We've now been listed for almost 5 years. In August, we complete 5 years, and we're listed on NASDAQ. We have had some challenging times. Overall, it's been, I think, a pretty good run. But we had a very challenging time twice. And the biggest one was when a large airline in India, Kingfisher, went out of business. And our product mix was very heavily skewed towards air. And therefore, we had a concomitant crash in our own kind of revenues and earnings. And the market obviously reacted very sharply when they saw Kingfisher go out of business, and they said, what's going to happen to companies like MakeMyTrip, which is a leading OTA in India, and which also meant fewer airlines left in the domestic market, which also meant higher prices. I'm very happy to say we navigated that fairly okay, and we've come out, I think, much stronger. Today, our product mix is now less than 50% dependence on air, and that's only been because of the fact that we were willing to listen to the market, and the market was telling us over-reliance on the air product, or where any market where you have few suppliers is risky. And now we have a very robust hotels business and a very robust holidays business. So I think we're far better distributed in terms of our different businesses, and we have a much healthier product portfolio. So that was a very big learning. Also, I think dealing with investors, one has learned a lot, and I think what that taught us is there will be investors who will be very short term. You can call them hedge funds who are looking for quarter on quarter returns, and that's fine. But who you really want a lot of in your portfolio are long term. And the long term investors, they see these opportunities when there's some structural issue with the market, or the market changes, which is beyond. They actually look at how you reacted to that. And they're willing to give good entrepreneurs the benefit of the doubt, good companies the benefit, and actually wait out. And some of our investors actually doubled down their position in that downturn in 2011-12, and that worked out very well for them, because then they were able to come in cheap and again make a lot of money with the MakeMyTrip stock. This is a very interesting story, actually. So in 2005, when we launched in India, initially it was all air. We did want to sell hotels, and we did want to sell holidays, and we tried to sell everything online. After about a year, we went back to the numbers, and when we looked at where our customers were coming from, it was very interesting. For air, we had customers coming from all across India. The big cities were our big contributors, as you would imagine, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, etc., and that made perfect sense. But when we looked at hotels and holidays, we noticed a very big skew towards Delhi, where we are based, New Delhi or the NCR region, and North India. And the more we dug into that and we spoke to customers to understand what was going on, I think it became clear to us that we were being perceived in the mind of the consumer as a Delhi-centric company, as a North Indian company. And we also realized that for purchasing a holiday, particularly a long holiday, it was an expensive purchase, and people wanted to deal with companies they could, I think, touch and feel, and not necessarily a company which was only on the World Wide Web. Things have, of course, changed a lot. This is way back in 2006, 2007. So we proposed to our board that we're going to set up a couple of retail stores in a few places. And the board, which was largely American, was pretty aghast because they thought we're going against the tide. But with some convincing, I think I was able to tell them, okay, let's do 3 pilots. So we put up 3 stores in 2 very traditional cities of India, Ahmedabad and Calcutta, and one fairly modern city of India, which is Bangalore. And we studied these for 6 months, and a very interesting result came out, which was not only were these stores doing well standalone, they were definitely on a good track, but our business, online business from these cities actually grew more than it grew in other cities. And the fact was that there was a bleed over effect that we were getting because of these branded stores in a big part of, in a major market of these cities. So we doubled down on that. We actually set up 20 such stores, and we have almost all of them up and running even today. We haven't grown that. We have a franchise network of about 70 stores in addition to that. So this helps us in our holidays business. And actually, the real benefit it gives us is it convinces the consumers that we're right there. And even today, I think people like the fact that they can walk into a travel store, discuss their holiday issues, hand over their passports, collect their foreign exchange, etc. But going forward, definitely the market is moving much more online and mobile than it is offline. I think it's changed. So in the initial days, if I just look at the early days, I think what was very important was what's your USP? Why would people come to your site? So when we launched in India in 2005, we were talking to our advertising agency and they said, what's the brief? And I said, the brief is very simple. Just get people to our site and the site will do the rest, because we had something no one else had. Basically, we could solve through technology what offline travel agents couldn't do. And that was our USP. We could give you all the options, including the low-cost carriers. Offline agents didn't want to sell. Traditional travel agents didn't want to sell low-cost carriers because they made no money out there. So that USP was there. And even when we launched hotel, we were the first game in town, etc. Over time, any successful business model will get copied, particularly if it's B2C and it's out there on the web, people will copy it, and we got copied. I think over time we realized that the user experience, the key thing is going to be actually usability, which is how easy is it to use your site, how convenient is it to use your mobile offering, and how quick and fast is it to use your app. So that becomes very, very important. Also selection. So all the choices, competitive pricing. I won't say always the lowest price. I'm not a believer of a discount shop because discounts can't last forever. And if you think you're going to be the cheapest, probably someone is always going to be a little cheaper, and especially with the kind of VC money flowing around. So that's not a sustainable model, and definitely not when you're public, when people are looking, investors are looking for returns. So we were very careful that our competitive advantage has got to be something sustainable, and most of it was around the user experience, the ease of use, the usability. I do tend to actually see a lot of young entrepreneurs, and I have invested in a bunch of young companies. My learning over time is that the only thing which really matters is the quality of the team and their intersect chemistry, because models change. In fact, some of the most successful businesses in India have been pivots, if you think about it. So if you look at Flipkart, they started out selling just books, and today they're selling everything. And I think it's a very successful company, largely because they're very smart entrepreneurs behind it who were able to read the tea leaves, change direction, do different things. If you look at Snapdeal, they pivoted 180%. 180 degrees, sorry. If you look at Snapdeal, they pivoted 180 degrees. They were a deal site and they became a marketplace e-com platform. If you look at Paytm, and I used to actually sit on their board when they were 197, a mobile VAS company, and now they're a mobile marketplace and a payments company on the mobile space. So very successful businesses pivoted very fast, came down to just one thing: the quality of the entrepreneur and the quality of the team and their chemistry, their ability to, like I said, read the signs, grab the opportunities, build great teams. So I'm very, very focused on the quality of the team and their passion, their energy. That for me is the most important. People say, yes, you should look at TAM and the size of the market. I think it's almost irrelevant, because if the team is smart and their market, for whatever reason, there's a structural shift and they see that market declining, they will change their models. So I think the market's almost irrelevant. I'm not a man of too many regrets, but yes, there is a lot of learning. And I think if I was to start all over again, Make My Trip, I started alone, but I was very fortunate to meet some fantastic colleagues, three of whom I made and very happily made co-founders along the way. And I have no hesitation in saying that, they are equally responsible for where the company is today. Today, only one of them is with me full time. One of them works with us as an advisor part time, and one of them stepped down around the time of the IPO, which is fine, but we are great friends. So for me, the biggest, if I was to get another take, I would start off with one other co-founder, so a team of two. I think three is too many, and someone with complementary skills. So I'm not a techie, and it would be great to have someone who is deeply technical, and I could hopefully then complement that person with other skills. I think it's all relative. It's obviously India is obviously tougher than the US market, or tougher than Singapore, or maybe tougher than most of Western Europe. But these are barriers to entry in a sense, or there are things which are just you need to handle. I think smart entrepreneurs should not get too mired in stuff which can be delegated. I think if you have to realize what you're really good at, and if you're really good at the regulatory stuff, and your business depends on regulations, then you should do that. And there will be times when there'll be challenging times for the company where the regulatory stuff is most important, then you should do that. But otherwise, I think you should stay away from stuff that you can delegate. So just be very clear in your mind. The most important resource for you as an entrepreneur is your time. Money is easy to get, and if you are smart and you're on to a good business, you'll get so much money you won't know what to do with it. And again, you have to prioritize your time. So it's your time, your waking hours of the day, and you got to spend them in the most useful way. So never get sucked into things which you can delegate. And I think that's like by far my most important learning. I think one trend which is now pretty clear is the move to mobile. The shift to mobile is very fast and furious. And in mobile, like I said, app world and just understanding the app world is very different. People say it's just one more way, one more channel. Not really. It's actually fundamentally different. The way you acquire your customers, your ability to retain them, your ability to reach out to them far more effectively. But then comes with that the responsibility to keep the app and the offering very relevant, very current, very, very important, and very is something very useful it must be to the customer. Otherwise, he's going to knock it off his mobile screen pretty soon because apps take up memory and people don't want to clutter up their screens unless it's very useful. So I think you have to keep that in mind going forward. That's going to become more and more important. I think big data and analytics is going to play an even bigger part of decision making. People are going to take speed, quick responses for granted. So you've got to go beyond just the fact that, hey, I've got a great price or I've got something which is special today but gone tomorrow. Sustainable competitive advantage and constant innovation is going to be the key. I don't think in the going forward, I don't think we can afford to wait months for releases. I think that release cycle is going to be cut down much shorter. It's, traditionally we looked at 1 quarter and 2 quarter. I think it's going to be probably a few weeks going forward. So you'll have to build the platforms very smartly so that you're able to make new releases very fast. It's a great question, and I think Google has been always very interested in travel. And I think Google's a very smart company, and they can organize data better than anyone else. I think the key thing is to be very clear on what your offering is and what value you're adding to the consumer. If Google is able to give the same value to the consumer, it'll be very hard for us to beat them. So Google today can give you tons of choices, but we're in the transaction business. And when we're in the transaction business, people want to buy from someone. And today, most customers in India find it comfortable to buy from us. 15% of all domestic travelers buy their tickets from us. A decent percentage of people booking hotel rooms buy their hotel rooms from us because they feel the confidence in the brand. We'll take care of them. We'll give them all the choices. We'll give them competitive pricing. And I think you've got to remind yourself of that every day. You've also got to keep understanding from the consumer, doing usability labs, talking to the customer, what pain points they really have, and then solving those and being 2 steps ahead. So you might have Google on one side, and we have TripAdvisor, which does a great job of research. But on the booking space, we've got to make sure we're the easiest place, the best place for people to actually make their transactions. Around 2007, I think we realized for the first time that we've got to build a more holistic product portfolio beyond flights. And the reason was very simple. The margins in the air business were already small because there were few suppliers in the business. The margins were small, also, it was a commodity. So you've got to understand when you buy a flight ticket, it's less important who you buy it from. What's important is which carrier you're going on, what time is your flight, and what price is your ticket. And you can't do, as an intermediary, as an OTA, we can't do too much about the price point of the ticket. It's really the airlines doing. So we started thinking about what else can we do and what else should we be selling on our platform. We have customers, we have travelers coming to MakeMyTrip. Today we're only selling them flight tickets. Should we be doing other stuff? So we looked at other transportation models, and today we offer rail tickets. But again, in rail, there's just one supplier, the Indian Railways, so you can't make margin, you can hardly make anything. We started selling bus ticket, but bus ticket, again, being a commodity, was a small price point. That's when we started looking at the accommodation market. And the more we looked at the accommodation market, both in terms of hotels and holidays, we realized that this is a very interesting market, and for two different reasons. So I'll talk about hotels first. In the hotel market, we were able to see that people want a place to stay when they're traveling on leisure or on business. And it's only the big brands and the chains where people know them by name. But the majority of the distribution of hotels in the country are independents, and they're small hotels, which a lot of people don't know. But what they do know is that they want to travel to, let's say, Nagpur for work, or to Shirdi for pilgrimage, or to Goa for a holiday, and they do know that their budget is, let's say, 3,000 rupees a day or 2,000 rupees a day, and they're looking to find something in a particular area to stay in. So we started building up a hotel repository, and we started offering hotels on our site. So hotel was a really good business which could move purely online, which it is today, with much higher margins, because again, remember that many suppliers means better bargaining power for the intermediaries, and we obviously have even better bargaining power with independent hotels than we have with chains. Chains, by virtue of the fact that they are large, are able to build up their own web presence and even do marketing. But when you go to independents, independent hotels can't start marketing nationally because it'll just make no sense. There could be a 20-room property somewhere, but they can't reach out to the whole country because they won't justify the marketing ROI, and they need a marketing channel like MakeMyTrip, and that's what we became for them. When we looked at the holiday market, it was even more interesting, because on the holiday market, we saw that was the one travel product where we could actually own the experience for the customer. So it wasn't an airline where you were buying an air ticket. It wasn't a hotel where you were booking a room, but it was actually the whole package. And so we started curating together holidays in places where people wanted to go, but it was very difficult. Some examples are Ladakh. We made Ladakh very popular by actually curating a holiday, putting together the right mix of hotels, transportation between difficult terrain in Ladakh, but getting to very interesting places with reliable vendors, and air tickets at much better pricing because we were offering volumes. And we put it all together. We did the same for Andamans, we did the same for Bhutan, and we made these packages very accessible to consumers. And people love to travel, but they want it well organized for them. So both these diversifications of our portfolio have really helped take away our dependability on just one segment, which was definitely going towards lower margins.